Sidelines with Rob Browne. Talk sporty to me.
All right, Rob Browne with you on this Wednesday college football and basketball blitz. Got a great show lined up for you today. Going to kick off with Dudley, Dawson, HAWGVille.net in Fayetteville, Bentonville, up in the northwest corner. Proud native son of Newport, Arkansas, the Greyhounds. He's a legend over there. City of 8,000 people. Looking forward. I think we might have some water in the timber in Newport. It is raining cats and dogs here. Of course, it's a lot of fun driving in the rain after your car gets broken into in Memphis yesterday afternoon. And I've got two windows smashed, riding around with a garbage bag on the side. Boy, I hope the people that broke in my car know I'm coming for them. I will get you. I will find you. I got your name. I got your number. Anyway, but at least it's raining. I'm glad it's raining. It's beautiful. We need rain in the biggest way. Second segment, Dan Mathews checks in with us, executive producer of the Southern Sports Today with Chuck Oliver over in Atlanta. Will check in with us to talk SEC and college football, basketball. Top of hour number 2, former coach at Murray State, Boise, Arkansas, the Arkansas Razorbacks, and Ole Miss. Houston Nutt will join us as well. He's now analyst with CBS College Football up in New York, along with our friend Rick Neuheisel and Brian Jones. Great commentary, great insight. That guy is one of the most passionate people. I'm looking forward to getting him on. Coach, how in the wide world of sports, as Slim Pickens would say, what in the wide world of sports is going on here? How could they leave Darren McFadden's name off of a Heisman ballot? I mean, Jim Cherry, Robert Hill, Michael Sagg, Tommy Christenberry, Scott Paulo, some of the Razorbacks I've already heard from ask that question. We're going to do it. We're here with you Monday through Saturday, 6 days a week, 2 hours a day, www.sidelines.live. And we are so grateful and so blessed for all of you that are listening and watching us on Sidelines. Also, 680thefan.com, the podcast park in Atlanta, over in the Battery. We're on their website, and Radio Alabama, Kicks 96.3, Alexander City and Lake Martin. College football, basketball, we love talking about it. We're junkies to it. We're addicted to it. And we got one of our best right here in the leadoff batter's position, Dudley, Dawson, HAWGVille.net. And Dudley, let's talk Razorbacks football. KJ Jefferson is coming back for a 9th year at Arkansas. Nothing like developing before you go to the NFL. Do you see that as something that you're really excited about? And you think he'll keep some of the players that may have otherwise left? But what's your takeaway from that? And we'll take it from there.
Well, such a boring offseason start here with KJ announcing he's coming back, Drew Sanders announcing he's going to the NFL, Keytron Jackson, a surprise entry into the portal. And, of course, Barry Odom not being able to work out a deal with Tulsa and then suddenly becoming the new head coach of UNLV. So, lots of things going on. But as far as KJ, that's a win-win for Arkansas. Not only do they get to have him back, he continues to develop and get more prepared for the NFL. But also he gets to mentor whatever quarterbacks are in here over the course of the spring and next year. They already have Malachi Singleton, who will sign here in the next couple of weeks, the freshman from Atlanta. And then Jacoby Criswell, the former Morrilton quarterback, who didn't come up here ostensibly because the head coach was going to make his son the quarterback, Chad Morris and Chandler Morris. Went to North Carolina. He will visit up here this weekend, and I'm sure there'll be one or two others that they'll bring in. But I think getting KJ back may be Coach Pittman's biggest offseason recruiting win to this point, and maybe for the entire period.
Well, it is big because you got a veteran who's been around a long time, and he's a pretty efficient quarterback. It doesn't have a lot. What were his turnovers this year? The numbers, I think they're pretty low, aren't they?
20 TDs, four interceptions, I believe, off the top of my head. And he's always been very efficient with the football. Even when he's made bad throws, they don't get caught by the defenders. So, there's some luck involved, I'm sure, as well. But he knows he can improve. He would have been drafted, I'm sure, but not where he wants to be drafted. So, good news on him coming back. And I do think that this probably means that Kendall Browse is definitely coming back. I don't think that, KJ's decision might have been a little bit different if Kendall Browse wasn't coming back, but we'll see how that plays itself out. But that's an exciting thing for most Arkansas fans. There are some out there who are a little on the edge that believe that you can just go out and grab a quarterback out of the portal and he'll be great and everything will be fine. But that's not the way it works all the time.
No, it's not. Yeah, I mean, and you're right, and it's so hard to get a quarterback, and only 4 interceptions. I mean, I saw quarterbacks this year throw 3 or 4 in one game. So KJ Jefferson, that is a huge deal to get him back. Who are your top choices, and who are the names you're hearing about to replace Barry Odom as defensive coordinator in Arkansas?
Well, I'll take, I'll reference it by saying I'm sure that Coach Pittman knows a lot more about who he wants than I do. I like Trey Scott, who's a defensive coach at Georgia, not the obviously defensive coordinator, but he's a guy that is a Crossett, Arkansas native. I think that, he would love to come back here. But that would be his first defensive coordinator job. He's a guy that his name is mentioned around here by a lot of people, but we'll see, whether that plays itself out. Glenn Schulman is their co-defensive coordinator. They're obviously with Will Muschamp. He's a guy that certainly is someone that, may be ready to move on and take over his own defense instead of being the co-guy. So that's a guy that's been mentioned. And then Jim Linhart from Wisconsin, which is an interesting situation there. He's one of the bright young defensive coordinators, on the scene, but also he's the interim head coach at Wisconsin right now. Obviously before Luke Fickell takes over, for next year. But he announced just a couple of days ago that he would be staying on as the defensive coordinator there at Wisconsin. But I'm sure that was before an opening happened here. So those are 3 names. There's probably any college football coach worth his salt has about 10 guys on a list at every position, to be ready for this situation. And obviously, I think he probably has been working on this for a minute or two, knowing that Coach Odom was looking at different positions and ready to get back into the head coaching game.
Yeah. Well, and I remember asking Tommy Tuberville this question one time. I said, do you just have a list in your back pocket of the top 4 or 5 guys that coach every position in college football with their cell phone and emails? He goes, absolutely. I said, where'd you learn that? Jimmy Johnson. He said, he taught me that lesson when he promoted me when I was an unpaid GA. Then I was coaching defensive line. Then I got promoted. He said, you need to find your replacement. That's when he called Arkansas, and he had a bunch of friends in Fayetteville. They had an assistant strength coach up there. And the guy, he called up there for him. He called back, left a message, and he goes, I couldn't understand a word he said. It was Ed Orgeron, Coach O, how that goes. And then, but you got to always know who your replacements are. And I bet you Sam Pittman has people blowing up his phone, wanting to get to Fayetteville.
Yeah, because, and I should say that the fan base has certainly brought up Coach Ed Orgeron. He was a former strength guy here. He's known for his defenses over the years, and certainly that would be a home run hire. But, man, I'm telling you, you'd have trouble getting me to come on this radio show if I was making $20 million a year and lay it on beat somewhere. So, we'll see.
Come on, man.
Yeah.
Jimmy and I
would call, as they say, I would call in rich.
No, you know what, Dudley? I think about that though. Coach O, I got enough money to buy a hamburger and a beer, but that'd probably be okay. Could you imagine Because I want a couple of things he can do. He can recruit and he can motivate and he can headbutt with the best of them. I don't think he's done. I'd give him a call.
Oh yeah, definitely.
My God, him recruiting, holy cow! I mean, that's like Ed McMahon coming to your door with a $25 million check. Can I come in? Absolutely. That'll be fun to watch. All right, one more. Eric Musselman, is he going to possibly take up a career as a UFC fighter? I mean, he look, what's the lowdown on what happened out there in Hawaii in that dressing closet sized arena that they played? They got to stop playing the games in those large walk-in closets. And as Coach Reed used to say, Hawaii.
Now, I love Lahaina Civic Center. It's one of the better high school gyms that you'll ever see here at Armory. I mean, I love going out there. Maybe it's because it's in Maui, but
yes, there you go.
When Coach, apparently, I should say, reportedly, when Coach was Coach Muss was the head coach at Nevada, they had quite a rivalry with the San Diego State fans, and so they were riding him pretty good. I think, clearly he accelerated the situation with this after the ball game, and that led one of the players' dads to come running out on the court. It didn't rise to the level that anybody needed to be arrested, but that's going to follow him around at the fan bases and road games this year. I'm sure fans are going to try to ride him and get him going. But they only do that when you're winning. They don't care about you when you're losing. So he's didn't necessarily enjoy the struggle they had last night. You're not going to play 30 perfect games, and certainly that wasn't. But again, they won the basketball game, and last I checked, they only count wins and losses. They don't count maybes or artistic greatness.
That's right. Well, I think listen to Connor Sag, Braden Havasta. So Braden's a recent Arkansas graduate. Connor's a senior up there, and they say that you'll see Eric Musselman all around campus all the time. He's out there totally into the people. And I go back fall of 2019 when Sonny Smith said, Bill Musselman's son is the new coach at Arkansas, Eric. He goes, keep your eyes on him. He goes, he will win right away at Arkansas. He goes, they got everything you need. And Coach Charles H. Sonny Suitcase Smith was right. I mean, Arkansas, 2 years in a row, Elite Eight. And, man, God, they've got something special up there. All right, Jimmy Hodge jumping here with Dudley Dawson. As they say in the upper Midwest, Dudley, Hogville.net, HAWGS. We call it Hogville. But Jimmy, jump in here with Dudley.
Well, I think what made Eric even more pleased was the fact that they just stole one there, because San Diego State was up 4 with 12 seconds left. And for some reason, when Arkansas brings the ball in the front court, one of their guards just grabs the guy with the ball with both arms. Now, so that gives them 2 shots, no time off the clock, and cuts it to 2. And then there's no other way to say it. San Diego State choked with that backcourt pressure. That one kid, all he had to do is make a pass, and he just froze. And Arkansas forced the turnover, got the game into overtime, and won it. And so the way Arkansas won had to have Musselman feeling pretty good. And there's some really good stories about those basketball rivalries out west. I remember former Georgia coach and now Cal coach Mark Fox, when he was at Nevada, they were playing at New Mexico State, and things got so raucous that they had to bring in the National Guard to get him out of the arena at Las Cruces. So there's been some really spicy rivalries out west there, and you don't often see unless you watch some of those late night games. But Dudley, what I wanted to ask you and get you to comment on is that to know that KJ Jefferson is coming back, not only is it a win for everybody involved, but it just tells you something about the people advising him, that he's got some smart people that are giving him, I think, very good advice, because he got banged up this year, had to miss a couple of games. I have a feeling that he just thought, I've got some unfinished business here. I missed a couple of games. The A&M game was a really tough loss. And then, we had the toughest schedule in the country. So I want to come back and go out with a bang.
Yeah. Okay, go ahead, Dudley.
Excellent point. I think if he had a healthy year, had gone from start to finish, his numbers would have been a place where the NFL would have drafted him high. Arkansas would have been successful. You hate to go 6-6, but if you get him back, then at least that's something that you can be excited about out of a year that you didn't really maximize what you could have.
Dudley, I look at the money. Eric Musselman, I don't know what his contract is, but he has turned Arkansas around quickly. And he's going to be there. He's not going to leave. He's not going to be bought and taken to another school. I marvel at what they do in Fayetteville with the facilities and everything. Real quick question before we go to the break. Are they going to build? I mean, that arena's 30 plus years old, Bud Walton Arena. Anything on the talks? Because, it seems like nowadays 25 years is old.
Hunter Yurchek, the athletic director, has talked more about a renovation thing. I don't think that, they would tear it down. You can renovate that thing and update it. And there might be people storming Bud Walton Arena if they try to
hold that thought. We're going to talk about it after the break, because I love Barnhill Arena. I love tradition. All right, we're going to be right back. The pride of Newport, Dudley Dawson, is holding court.
Hey y'all, it's Ainsley from Hewlett & Dunn, just coming to let you know about our new collection of boots. It's going to be our dress boots. They're the Horsepower collection, and they're genuine exotic leathers and really comfortable. Comes in all different sizes and patterns, so come check them out.
Red River Ford and Toyota, located in Wynne, Arkansas. If you're in the market for a new or used car, truck, or SUV, call, go online, or drop by and see them. Located 45 minutes from Memphis, go off the 4-city exit on I-40 and go north about 15 minutes on Highway 1. Easy to work with and still believe in customer service. If you live out of town, they will deliver your vehicle to you. RedRiverFordToyota.com. Just see what they can do.
Strengthen your seed zone this spring with quality tillage equipment from House Industries. Located in Cherry Valley, Arkansas, House Industries specializes in manufacturing superior equipment that will minimize your downtime and keep you working in the field. To ensure the highest quality control, all design, fabrication, and testing takes place in a 99,000 square foot manufacturing facility located right here in the heart of the Delta. Locate your nearest House equipment dealer online at houseindustriesinc.com.
House Industries, breaking ground.
Sidelines with Rob Browne. Talk sporty to me.
All right, Rob Browne back here on the Wednesday college football and basketball blitz with Dudley Dawson of hogville.net. Jimmy Hodge up in Lake Zurich, Illinois. Look, if you live in Memphis, at some point, you're going to have to get new windows. And I got to get 2 new ones today. It's just part of Memphis, You got crime everywhere. So I got to get 2 new windows put on right after the show. And you know where I'm going? I'm going to the corner of G.E. Patterson and B.B. King to Tom Martin's Body Shop. I'll tell you what a good guy Tom is. He ain't a good guy. He's a great guy. Regular celebrant at Mass at St. Louis Catholic Church. Father, husband, 3 great boys. I'm getting 2 new windows within 5 minutes of going out at the Y in East Memphis and finding my car had been broken into. And our ferocious attack dog, 10-pound Min Pen Delta, ran them off. They got my wife's purse and all the money that was in there, but they didn't get anything else thanks to that big ferocious beast. I called Tom Martin within 5 minutes. 6 minutes later, he'd already ordered the glass, and it's going to be there. And I'm going to go in there, NASCAR style, folks, get 2 new windows so we can get on the road down to Birmingham, to the Monday Morning Birmingham Quarterback Club annual dinner tonight at the club up on the mountain. But if you need windows, body work, car work. You can't find better people than Tom Martin's Body Shop, G.E. Patterson and B.B. King in Memphis for 40-plus years. They don't have hours. They have commitment. That's what it's all about. Dudley, speaking of commitment, I loved Old Barnhill Arena. I love this Bud Walton Arena, 19,000 seats strong. But that Arkansas basketball is one of the richest traditions. Outside of Kentucky in the SEC, you've got Florida with 2 national championships. But really, is it Arkansas, Kentucky? Is that are those the 2 most consistent programs, in your opinion?
I think most neutral observers would say that Florida would certainly, be right there if you had to include 3 because they had success. Maybe not as much lately as they did during the time when Joakim Noah and Al Horford and those guys were coming through. But certainly those are 3 fan bases that expect to win. I know that Arkansas's fan base would probably be disappointed if they didn't get to the Sweet 16 this year, which I think is very probable. I've been asked a lot about can they get to the Final Four. Well, of course they can get to the Final Four if everything goes right. I still worry a little bit about their outside shooting and some of the turnovers they have. But, that's a product of youth, and Musselman's teams have gotten better as they've gone throughout the season. I'm sure that'll be the same thing. But yeah, it's a great time for the the overall sports program here. There's not really anybody who's letting things down. Although if you wanted to say that 6-6 this year after a 9-4 season last year was a disappointment, that's certainly, that's certainly a good contention.
Yeah, and I just think about in the state of Arkansas, there are less than 3 million people. But you look at some of the greatest Arkansas players in history, a lot of them are from the natural state. You think about Corliss Williamson. Remember where he's from? Conway? Am I correct? Russellville, up in Lake Dardanelle. But so many of them, and then from Little Rock and all like that. But I look at it in football too. Tim Horton, and I'm going to ask, Houston Nutt when he's on today about it. When you can recruit and dominate the state of Arkansas in football or basketball, and certainly baseball, you can be a national program. So it's fun to watch. But one other thing I want to ask you, Dudley. You look at the fan base of Arkansas. What's the takeaway from this season? Because you were on this saying toughest schedule in the country. Jimmy and I talk about it every day. And then last year you won the close games. This year you lost 4 or 5 really close games. So it's not like you're, years away from being a contender. Sam Pittman, contrary to the record 6-6, they could have been 10-2, 9-3, and we're having a different conversation, aren't we?
Yes, and they could have been 6-6 last year instead of 9-4. It was, as you said, a matter of winning the close games instead of losing. Yes, they are within a range of getting and having more success, but I also don't want to poo-poo the idea that they're just right there, that just flipping a switch will make things better. There are a lot of different things, and that's why you're seeing some changes within the program off the field as well. To get things in a situation. The fans are disappointed with 6-6. The coaches and the players are disappointed with 6-6. That to me is a great thing. 6-6 around here during a lot of the last decade would have been cause for rejoicing because they were spending time in the bottom 10, that bottom 10 hole where you never want to be. So expectations are higher here. Regardless of your opinion of Coach Pittman and what he did this year and how his staff did this year, 6-6 being a disappointment around here is a good thing, not a bad thing to me after covering this program for so long.
Well, the good thing is the fans are upset. Apathy will kill your program quicker than anything. And I've talked to fans of different schools over the years, and they always go, Browne, y'all Auburn people are like Spartans. You're like just animal. Y'all, you want to win every game. If you don't win every game, the coaches are all gone. I said, yeah, it keeps everybody focused. I mean, it's just, and you live in the state of Alabama. That's the way it is. But Arkansas fans, they're mad. But I do hear a lot of people say, well, KJ Jefferson, Kendall Browse, whatever. That means people care. As long as people care and they're writing checks and they're putting money into the program. That's what matters. And they got something special going on. Jimmy, I know you got some questions for Professor Dawson here. He's holding court at the house of Dawson on hogville.net.
And fellow Dallas Cowboy fan.
Oh, yeah.
Dallas
By the
Cowboy.
way, when you first came on and you were talking about possible replacements for Barry Odom, you mentioned Cross at Arkansas. Couldn't help but think Barry Switzer immediately. You know, they have quite a history of sports figures themselves, so that would be a good vibe if he happened to be the guy. But yeah, I'm wondering, with your sources inside the athletic department, who you think might have the inside track to the coordinator position, because we all know that Jim Leonard is going to end up somewhere as a defensive coordinator at a big-time program. And why not Arkansas? Because I think they would have a big edge, because it's not a secret that SEC football programs pay their assistants, they pay their coordinators top dollar more than any other conference in the country, and it's not close.
Otis Kirk, who y'all have had on the show, does a great job covering football for us at Hogville, and I think that is one of the main guys that he and I are Wisconsin defense coordinator. It would be a home run hire. Certainly Coach Pittman has hired a lot of people with Georgia connections, including Ben Souders, the new strength and conditioning coach, who will spend more time with these guys during the offseason, obviously, than the coaches, and it'll be big for him. He was at Georgia as well. But I do think that it is you go get the best guy, regardless of the connections he's had, Georgia and all that. And he seems to be very excited. There were a couple of Arkansas guys that, would have been Hero Small and Tank Wright would have been guys that, people would have said, yeah, great former Razorbacks. But you have to balance the situation. You can't just hire them because they have Arkansas ties. It's great if they do, but you have to hire who you think is best for the job. And certainly Jim Lenhart is the name out there, or at least one of the hot names as a defensive coordinator. If you hire him, it'd be a home run hire. We'll see if that mix. But I am sure that Wisconsin will throw a lot of money at him, trying to get him to stay. And Luke Fickell will certainly make his pitch to get him to stay. And, now I kind of wonder who's going to, will Coach Odom stay and do the defensive coordinating here for the bowl? Will he go on? How will that happen? It'll be interesting to see. And Arkansas will start practice on Friday. So kind of looking forward to seeing how it plays itself out. Drew Sanders is not going to play. Ricky Stromberg not going to play in the bowl. So it's going to be an opportunity for a lot of younger guys, including Marcus Henderson, who, struggled with injuries this year, but he'll have the opportunity to play center during the bowl. And I've always said that the bowls, certainly the way it works out these days with guys jumping into the portal and opting not to play, this is more of the beginning of next year than it is the end of this season.
Dudley, question from a couple of Hog fans, Randolph and Mortimer Duke. From
love those dudes. Love those dudes.
Yes, absolutely. Duke and Duke Commodities. Put all assets of Duke and Duke Commodities on hold. Gentlemen, all accounts must be settled at the end of the day. We haven't got $365 million. Well, I'm sorry. Mortimer, your brother's having a heart attack. I digress. But anyway, a question from Randolph and Mortimer Duke, who live in Devall's Bluff, Arkansas. Dudley had mentioned he wanted to talk about Arkansas's new strength and conditioning coach, Ben Souders. And this is the guy we all know spends more time with the football players and student athletes than any other person, other than maybe, they got a girlfriend or something, but this is the man. Let's talk about him. Randolph and Mortimer Duke. Thank you, gentlemen. They're back in business.
Yeah. Haven't you people ever heard of coasters? The Souders is a guy that he is certainly, Coach Pittman is certainly high on. And again, this is, I'm not going to say it's the most important hire of the offseason. I think that would be stretching it a little bit, but it is vastly more important than people give it credit for. I think the fans give it credit for. I think as we talked earlier, Arkansas has to get stronger on the football field. They got pushed around at the end of the year, and you can't have that in the SEC. But I think that Jamil Walker's ouster so quickly after that was not only about that, but about some some things that weren't working well off the field. I guess it was almost said off the court, and so it was a twofold thing. You don't fire somebody within 24 hours unless there are a lot of things going on, and you really need to make a change. They did. There were a lot of great candidates. He used to work with this guy, as did Jamil Walker at Georgia. He had been at Louisville this last year, had started his career at Garden Women, also had spent some time as an intern at Alabama. So he has some SEC knowledge.
All right. Look, Dudley, we've run out of time in this segment. It flies by when you're on. Great stuff as always. Tell people how they can follow you, and look forward to having you on again next week.
All of my Arkansas stuff is at hogville.net, the message board and website in Arkansas. Still continuing as soon as I get done with y'all, about to start writing some high school stories on this week's Class 3A and 4A state championship games at the World Memorial Stadium. And then if you want to know stuff about the Cardinals, Cowboys, Celtics, Manchester United, Vegas Golden Knights, then you can catch me on Twitter at Dead Sports.
All right, I'm going to hook you up with Chef Roger Watson and Nigel on that Man United Arsenal stuff. But have a great week, Dudley. Thanks so much for your time. We always enjoy it.
You guys too.
All right, thank you. All right, let's head over to Atlanta. Dan Mathews, executive producer, Southern Sports Today with Chuck Oliver. 55 affiliates in 8 states. It comes on right after we are on, 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. Monday through Friday. It is all college football. Dan, right now, college football, Georgia, the only SEC team going. You think they can bring home another national championship matched up against Ohio State in that playoff round in Atlanta in the game 1?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think that they're probably the best team that's still remaining. I understand that offensively they've had some games that aren't necessarily up to what people would hope they would have. But you just scored 50 points the other day against a pretty decent defense. I know they had their ups and downs in LSU, but still 50 points in an SEC championship game. That's not a bad feat to be able to accomplish. So there's not very many teams that are left that could say, if we handle what we're capable of, then we can't be beat. And Georgia is one of those teams. So I understand that Ohio State's going to have a chance to get healthy. I understand that they're going to have a bad taste in their mouth from what happened to them against Michigan. But if Georgia plays the way that they're capable of, then I don't see them losing.
Yeah, and a lot of people are coming out with the narrative, there's no great team in college football. But when Georgia has been asked in the biggest games, Oregon, Tennessee, and LSU, and they're acting, the fans are acting, and just people in general, that 50 points they hung on LSU, that's no big deal. That's like when I've gone to Grizzlies games over the years and you watch some of these great guys like Kevin Durant play. They score 40 points. It's like they scored 7 because they're so good. I think Georgia is challenging, Kirby Smart's challenging this team to outdo last year's, and that's what's fueling this team. What about you?
Yeah, that's a good point, Rob. I mean, I think that if nothing else, they're held to the standards of what last year's team was. They lost so much from that defense and still had an outstanding defense this season. So I think there's got to be credit for that. The offensive stuff, it's twofold, I think. I think, number one, there's still an inherent distrust in some ways in believing that Kirby Smart will allow for a good offense to be had. Because, there's still thought, number one, people are still resentful that he hasn't been able to make a 4- or 5-star quarterback work yet. Now, I think the key word on that is yet, because I think he will have an opportunity. It'll be interesting to see what they do with the transfer portal this offseason. But in terms of this season, you probably didn't have as much talent even on the offensive side of the ball, especially at the receiver position, as you had last year. Not having George Pickens is, and Jermaine Burton, and not having A.D. Mitchell for much of the season, or even Eric Gilbert, who you were hoping to have, and you didn't have him at all this season. I think that it's pretty impressive what they were able to do offensively. Now, as the season wore on, you not having A.D. Mitchell hurt your passing attack. And, they probably also, too, decided in certain games, hey, this is in doubt now, or this isn't even in doubt. Let's just sit on it and let our defense go to work. And a lot of times it worked. So they haven't had to play from behind much more than I'm trying to remember the last time they trailed in the second half. I'm trying to remember when it was this year. I don't even know if they did.
I am too.
Yeah. So I mean, it just goes to show you. I mean, God, if that's not complete dominance, I don't know what is.
Yeah, I think we're about to go to a break. We're going to come back, but I think a lot of that is the narrative that somehow Georgia's not that good. I referenced none other than Mr. College Football Tony Barnhart on the show last week, and he said, I know this sounds a little outside the box, but it is. My choice for Coach of the Year this year, Kirby Smart, because of what he lost and what he's done with what he had coming back, and they're right knocking on the door of a repeat of a national championship. Right back with Dan Mathews over in Atlanta after this quick commercial break.
Hey everyone, my name is David Wisdom.
And I'm Shelby McNeil, and we're attorneys with Haggard, Cleveland, Pierce, Thompson & Short, your local Auburn law firm. Established in 1959 right in the heart of Auburn, Haggard, Cleveland, Pierce, Thompson & Short has grown in response to our clients' legal needs. We're a full-service law firm focusing on the legal issues our clients face.
We take pride in providing our clients with exceptional legal services, ongoing communication, and skilled representation. If you have any questions about our services, please give us a call or visit our website today.
All right, this presentation is brought to you by Tom Martin's Body Shop. Window to college football. Speaking of windows, I've got to get 2 new ones right after the show today, and it's pouring down rain over here because my truck was broken into in Memphis. Wow, we got more criminals than mosquitoes, it seems like, over there. But Tom Martin's Body Shop, G.E. Patterson and B.B. King, and that ferocious guard dog, 10-pound Min Pin Delta, probably scared them off. All they got was Audrey's purse and my mother's grocery money. Get the world's smallest violin out there, Mr. Krabs. Nobody's going to care. But anyway, Tom Martin's Body Shop, great folks to work with. G.E. Patterson and B.B. King in Memphis, open Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. Can't beat Tom Martin and the great folks down there. He was on it within 6 minutes after the break-in, ordering my new windows. Let's talk about that. Georgia has not. I don't think they have. Jimmy, you were going to say something that they may have trailed at some point in the game?
They trailed Missouri most of the game. They came from behind and went ahead with 2 or 3 minutes left. And
yeah, we forgot about that. Conveniently.
Yeah. But that's what's so weird about college football, because the week before they lost a game at Auburn in overtime that was impossible to lose. You're about to score untouched on the first play of overtime, and you're 2 feet from the goal line, and the running back decides to switch arms with the ball, and he fumbles it. And then the next week they just play super against Georgia. They were ahead most of the game. And you look at South Carolina just getting destroyed at the Swamp, 38-6. 7 days later, they just run Tennessee out of Williams-Brice Stadium. So in this day and age of college football, nothing makes sense anymore, and it makes you realize that these are 18 to 22-year-old young. They're still youngsters, young adults, but I'm telling you what, it just shows you that anything can happen, and that's what makes college football just such a great sport.
It is, Dan. Carry on with that one. The rest of the playoff picture. What do you think's going to happen?
Well, I mean, I actually think that TCU and Michigan is going to be a pretty decent game. I think that both of them are actually going to be pretty competitive this year. I mean, if there's one that I probably could see getting a little bit more lopsided, I think that the Georgia game could, just because I'm going to flat out say it. That was an Ohio State team that quit against Michigan. And I don't trust teams that do that. I understand you have a bad day. I understand that, things kind of get away from you. But I mean, I'm not the only person that feels that way about Ohio State. And when you do that, I don't necessarily believe that you can bounce back. And Georgia is a team that's in the business of making teams quit. I mean, Kirby Smart's been on record numerous times, and not only on record, but on videos that we have a theory in our building that don't get released by mistake. And it's him talking to his team about, like the one that was on the SEC storied, don't never underestimate, or the SEC rewind, you get my point. Don't underestimate the power of physical toughness. And that's what Georgia relies upon. Now, I think that if chalk holds and it's the national championship of Michigan and Georgia, number one, the phony outrage crew in college football, which we all know in the age of Twitter is plenty of people, they're going to say what a boring game and all these different types of things. And it is going to look more like an NFL game. You're not going to see somebody run away with it. It's going to be a lower scoring game. But you're going to see two teams that are going to be willing to knock heads with each other and try to figure out who indeed is the better team. Georgia is the better team. They're at least more talented, so they should win that one. But also, too, I can't remember exactly who we were talking with about it, asking Michigan what would be different this time. And they said that I guarantee you, even without Blake Corum, that Jim Harbaugh would say, we're physically tough. We've got a great offensive line. We've got a good running game. Let's just go at these guys that way. Now, some people say a team, coached by Kirby Smart, that's the wrong way to go at them. You have to try to outpace them, do all that kind of stuff. I think just the moral of the story is I think the best way to describe Georgia is they're kind of like what Jake Arrieta on the Barstool podcast said about the Astros. They don't beat themselves. They don't get beat. So, again, I think it comes down to if Georgia plays the way that they're capable of these next two games, they will not be beaten. If they make mistakes and they play uncharacteristic of the way that they've played all season, then they put themselves in trouble. But of the four teams remaining, there's nobody that I can really point to that can really fit that profile that Georgia just fit that I just threw out there. I think that it's the burden of proof on the other three and not necessarily on Georgia.
Dan, Stetson Bennett the fourth. There's another narrative out there in the Twitter sphere and the idiosphere. He's an older guy playing against younger players. He's really not that good. I mean, he's on the verge of leading Georgia to back-to-back national championships. And I can name another quarterback in the SEC that did that, A.J. McCarron out of St. Paul's in Mobile, but he's going to be in pretty elite company when he does that, because I believe they will. Is it just because he's 5'10" and doesn't project as an NFL guy that people want to rip this guy? Because he ain't nothing but a winner.
Bingo. No, that's 100% it. That's what it is that, he's thought of as kind of, and I think that's a good comparison of A.J. McCarron, because remember with A.J. McCarron, it was never him. It was the defense. It was Eddie Lacy. It was T.J. Yeldon. It was Amari Cooper. It was a lot of really good players. But, I always loved the argument, for example, Phil Jackson was only Phil Jackson because of Kobe and Shaq and because of Scotty and Michael. Well, yeah, he was, because he was also smart enough to not mess it up. So I think that's, part of it as well, is that there have been plenty of people who you've looked at throughout history and said, God, with all that talent, why didn't they win more? Yeah. So I think making the most of what you have at your disposal is something that is very much a warranted accomplishment. Now, I'm going to talk about this today on the Chuck Oliver Show because, again, I'm talking to the phony outrage crew out there. Why are we so for symbolic gestures? And here's what I mean is right now it's the thought that, well, Stetson Bennett's there, but not Hendon Hooker. Why is he there? If neither of them are going to win the Heisman Trophy, why are either of them there? So, I just don't understand this. Hey, let's send, Hendon Hooker because of a lifetime achievement, which I'll be honest with you, I think is probably a huge reason why Stetson Bennett is there. And are his numbers necessarily that good? No, they're not. Not this year, at least. but he's going because of the reasons that you mentioned about, the accomplishments that he's had as a starter. And also, too, I mean, I think that there probably was a little bit of a thought because let's be honest here this season. This is 2007 on steroids when Tim Tebow won it off a, 9-3, 8-4 Florida team. Not a great Florida team is my point.
Yeah.
And he won the Heisman Trophy because everybody looked around and said, Troy Smith, probably not. Trying to look around and try to figure out who necessarily would be there, which I guess not Troy Smith, but you get my point.
Darren McFadden.
Right. Who was on a team that I don't even think made a bowl game that year. So, I just, the Heisman Trophy, some years it's clear cut. Yes, we knew a couple of years ago it was going to be Devontae Smith. We knew last year it was going to be Bryce Young. We knew the year before that it was going to be Joe Burrow. I mean, some years it's more clear cut. This year, I mean, it's going to be Caleb Williams. And he, of course, then there's going to be the people, C.J. Stroud. Well, kind of like Caleb Williams, C.J. Stroud had a bad game in the one that mattered the most. So then I guess, you look over to, I'm trying to even think who the other finalist is for the award, Max Duggan. Max Duggan just lost the Big 12. So you're really kind of choosing from not the greatest options this year. And, the other part of it as well is that I think we can agree that, Stetson Bennett, the numbers have not been that great. You want to make that argument? Fine. When I saw that he was a finalist for it, I was kind of surprised. I was like, I thought that he's had a pretty ho-hum, decent year, and decent for me doesn't put you on my Heisman Trophy ballot. I don't have one because if I just said what I just said right there, the Heisman Trust would not be very happy with me. But the point is, if I did, he wouldn't be there for me. So I'm just not for symbolic gestures. If then your follow-up is going to be, well, he wouldn't have won it, but then I'm done listening to you because there's no reason. And I don't think he's for symbolic gestures either. Oh, a free trip to New York. Oh, do all this kind of stuff. The experience. I don't think Hendon Hooker necessarily cares about that if he's not going to win.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I mean, going to New York is fun. You can get mugged up there. You can get just as well as anywhere else and get your windows broken out. If you do that, you can go to Tom Martin's body shop, get them to be replaced. But anyway, I'm with you. No symbolic gestures, substance over all that stuff. And Dan, the narrative that so many people in the media push out there, they want to elevate the Big Ten. Would you agree has minders like communist Chinese do? When you're an American businessman, I've talked to plenty of them who've been to Beijing or Shanghai. When you go out for a morning run or a walk, there's 3 or 4 minders watching you. We're always getting that Big Ten narrative. And as soon as Michigan got through curb stomping Ohio State 45-23 in Columbus, immediately we started hearing how Ohio State had a path to get back to the CFP. Honestly, it's disgusting. It's based purely on the TV sets and everything like that. Okay. All right, Dan, I know you got to go. Thank you so much for your time. I know you got a big day producing. Tell people how they can follow you. We love having you on here. You are the king. I mean, you and Chuck Oliver do it every day, and we love it. But let them know how they follow you, and we'll do it again next week.
Yeah, follow me on Twitter at Dan Mathews, ATL, 1T and Mathews, at Chuck Oliver Show. Is how you can find us on Twitter as well. By the way, I'm actually hosting today. That's why I got to jump in and get the final preparation of the show going. But we're going to have our good buddy Chris Gordy from the Locked On SEC podcast, Woody Womack from Rivals, because let's not forget, here in a couple of weeks, we're going to get national letters of intent signed in college football. Get guys on campus for spring practice and for the spring semester. So talk with him about that. Ryan Callahan from Go Vols 247. He's going to join us as well. So we got a nice show coming up for you, 11 to 1 Eastern right here on the Southern Sports Today app, and also too wherever you pull in the Chuck Oliver Show on our many affiliates throughout the Southeast.
I'll be listening to it on the way to Birmingham, man. Thank you so much, Dan. Have a great week.
All right, take care.
All right, you too. Jimmy back with us right now. The college football landscape there's just certain places that always have to have their opinion inserted. It's like the people that always got to tell you what they did. Shut up and do your job. The national media, some of these guys that are broadcasters on college football games, they need to learn what did Vern Lundquist tell us when he was on September 27th? He said, you got to get out of the way and shut up. When you're at the Masters and the patrons are lined up by the thousands, you can hear the guy across the fairways heart beating when Happy Gilmore's up to tee off. Or on a critical putt, or Jack Nicklaus, or any other great golfer. You don't have to say anything, but we've got to get that Ohio State, and they won. They got them in. They crammed Ohio State in, kind of like trying to put some big guy in a fat guy in a little coat. That's the Big Ten. That is Ohio State in the college football playoff this year. Jimmy, are we going to beat the fat guy in a little coat? Is Ohio State, do they have I know they have a chance, but they laid down and they quit. The first time you quit, it's hard. The second time, you'll think about it. The third time, you don't even think about it. You're just a quitter at that point. I don't like Ohio State's team for that very reason. And I wonder how many of those guys are going to quit and not play in the game off that team.
Well, I personally don't think they quit, but I think they used very poor defensive strategy. They were sending everybody on, be it passing situations or short yardage situations, in cover zero, where there's no free safety. So if you broke the line of scrimmage, there was nobody left. And that's how Edwards scored on the 75-yard touchdown run and then the 85-yard touchdown run. You've got to be more conscious of what's been going on during the game, because Michigan showed they had guys that could make big plays. They scored on 2 or 3 long touchdown passes because there was no help in the secondary if the corners got beat, which they did. So it just showed a lot of flaws with that Ohio State defense, who for the most part had been lauded as being much improved under new defensive coordinator Jim Knowles from Oklahoma State. And you should have had a red flag in that Penn State game, because they moved the ball at will on that Ohio State defense the whole ball game. Ohio State just outscored them. But I don't think this Georgia matchup is a good one at all for Ohio State, because Georgia is the ultimate example of what is said about SEC football. It's a line of scrimmage league, and Ohio State is simply not going to be able to match up against Georgia at the line of scrimmage on either side of the ball.
Well, Georgia, I really do believe Kirby Smart he's such a great motivator, and he's a master at it. You're either elite or you're not. Sounds corny, but he's right. And I think he's challenging this team. At his thing, they're so good, you've got to find excuses to win. You've got to find ways to motivate your guys. It's like, being an heir or an heiress to a huge fortune. There are plenty of people like that were, born on home plate and thought they hit a grand slam and are just in and out of rehab their whole lives. It's almost like a status symbol to them. That's the challenge. And Nick Saban's facing it at Alabama. They win so much. He's got a guard, and the players, I would think, are smart enough to block it out. But Alabama, they're going to make a lot of changes because, 5 games going down to the last play. It's a challenge at this level to maintain greatness. Every coach out there will tell you it's easier, relatively speaking, to get to the top than it is to stay on top. We'll talk more right after this quick break. Rob Browne, Jimmy Hodge, and Mildred from Birmingham after this.
From Hewlett and Dunn, just coming to let you know about our new collection of boots. It's going to be our dress boots. They're the horsepower collection. and they're genuine exotic leathers and really comfortable. Comes in all different sizes and patterns, so come check them out.
Red River Ford and Toyota, located in Wynne, Arkansas. If you're in the market for a new or used car, truck, or SUV, call, go online, or drop by and see them. Located 45 minutes from Memphis, go off the 4-city exit on I-40 and go north about 15 minutes on Highway 1. Easy to work with and still believe in customer service. If you live out of town, they will deliver your vehicle to you. RedRiverFordToyota.com. Just see what they can do.
Strengthen your seed zone this spring with quality tillage equipment from HAWGS Industries. Located in Cherry Valley, Arkansas, HAWGS Industries specializes in manufacturing superior equipment that will minimize your downtime and keep you working in the field. To ensure the highest quality control, all design, fabrication, and testing takes place in a 99,000 square foot manufacturing facility located right here in the heart of the Delta. Locate your nearest HAWGS equipment dealer online at HAWGSIndustriesInc.com.
HAWGS Industries, breaking ground.
Sidelines with Rob Browne. Talk sporty to me.
All right, Rob Browne back here broadcasting live. Red River Ford Toyota in Wynne, Arkansas. It is raining. It continues to rain, and those bald spots on the St. Francis River, we're starting to see a little bit of comb over action. We need that rain because the ducks need water. We've got plenty of food for them. The table is set. Season resumes 30 minutes before sunrise Saturday morning. We're on baby watch for Mallory over in Atlanta. So going to go to Birmingham. I feel like the old days. I'm not a doctor, but remember they used to have their beepers going off and they'd get in their car and take off in the middle of the night. But I've got to go get new windows today. If you need new windows for your car, truck, or SUV, any body work done, Tom Martin's Body Shop, G.E. Patterson and B.B. King in Memphis, 40-plus years. Tom Martin, he's as good as it gets. He's got a great 12-man crew in there, great people in the office. Best thing about him is they're quick. 6 minutes after the break-in last night, right when the Memphis police arrived, he already had ordered my 2 new windows. 2 new windows. Nothing like having to spend $800. They could have gone to another cause. And then they stole all my mother's grocery money. I hope these people get a good case of the bubonic plague that stole my wife's purse. But anyway, I'll get new windows at Tom Martin's Body Shop. Jimmy, you live north of Chicago. There's no crime up there. But I got to ask you, man, this college football, this 2 teams from the Big Ten in the college football playoff. I bet they're just giddy at Big Ten headquarters about what all their friends, their minders in the national media have done for them, aren't they?
Well, it just makes sense that if you have 2 teams that are 11-0 going into the final regular season game, and they're 2 big brand names, I mean, they're the 2 bell cows of the conference. They're going to get in. I mean, the only question about Ohio State was the size of the margin that they lost by. I mean, Michigan won going away, and it was for the 2nd year in a row. And it's kind of surreal when you think about it that Michigan all of a sudden has won 2 Big 12 championships in a row. And Ohio State had won 15 out of the last 16 games going into last year's meeting. So it's kind of a shock to the system because Ohio State had more or less been running, roughshod. And at least after Urban Meyer got there. And so, again, I did think they had a good chance of getting in because Notre Dame last year, they lost by 3 touchdowns in the ACC championship game to Clemson, and they also got in. So, those brand names, depending on what part of the country you're located in, they can be pretty hard to move out of that rotation. And with Alabama having 2 losses, that gave them every excuse to put Ohio State in front of them.
Well, I'll just say this. We got Coach Houston Nutt joining us right now. Coach Nutt, Rob Browne, Jimmy Hodge here. We're broadcasting Sidelines Sports Radio Show and podcast out of Memphis. We're actually in Wynne, Arkansas today, Coach, one of our sponsors in your state, Red River Ford Toyota, City with a Smile. Love these people over here, and you are one of the most passionate people. I've got more people on the floor out here. Rusty Howard, and man, I'm telling you, Justin Wynn, the general manager, they're all Razorbacks. My God, they're going, you got to get Houston Nutt. So Saturday afternoon, I texted my friend Tim Horton, who said, I love Houston Nutt. Send me your number. We texted you. You were in CBS in New York. I was over at the hunting camp in Parkin, Arkansas, the Cherry Farm. A lot of Razorbacks over there, and they were going, you've got to get Houston Nutt on there. And my grandparents are from Helena, so I've got a lot of Arkansas in me. I love this state. Spend a lot of time up in Hardy on the Spring River. But, man, boy, did you put some beatings on my Auburn Tigers over the years. Woo, man, Coach, I think you could get somebody fired up walking the Green Mile. I love your passion. My friend Tommy Christenberry played up there for Arkansas for Lou Holtz. Harold Horton recruited him out of Memphis, Tim's dad. So much great history and tradition. And Jim Cherry, Michael Sag, Connor Sag, Robert Hill, Tommy Christenberry, Scott Polo, all my Razorback friends. I got a lot of them. Chad House, ECS House Industries over in Cherry Valley is a sponsor of ours. They are so fired up. We all are to hear from you. But I just want to say thanks for taking time to join us. And the number one question they all said, ask him, how in the world did anyone ever not vote DMAC, Darren McFadden, Heisman Trophy winner? I was in Hardy in 2005. Y'all were playing Alabama in Tuscaloosa. Fall break, went up to the cabin to get something to drink. And I just said, I think Darren McFadden ran off about a 70-yard touchdown run against Alabama. And I said, that's the best running back I have seen since I was in school, and a guy named Bo Jackson was at Auburn. But anyway, kind of got you fired up. I'm so fired up having you on here. We don't even need a power source. We got Coach Nutt on here, but welcome to Sidelines.
Hey, I appreciate y'all having me, guys. Yeah, you're exactly right about Darren McFadden. I'm partial, but he's a two-time Doak Award winner, two-time runner-up in the Heisman. But one of those 2 years, I really thought he deserved it. He deserved the Heisman Trophy. He put us on his back. And very few guys can get to the second level and take it to the house, 75 yards, 80 yards, as you mentioned, home run hitter. And Darren McFadden could do that in the fastest league in America. And so what I love so much about Darren, though, Rob, was he was such a team player. I never will forget Coach Saban in the spring meeting one time said he took the film of the special teams. He was an offside kick returner to Felix Jones. Yeah. He showed it to his team. And the reason that he did, he says, this is why he's an All-American. He went and blocked and pancaked this guy for his teammate. He said, this is what an unselfish All-American does. And so he loved football. He loved Arkansas. And I'm like you. I really thought he deserved the Heisman that 1 year, but had a great career at Arkansas, loved Arkansas, and just a winner.
Yeah, no question. And I spend a lot of time over here. We duck hunt in Newport and Hunter and Fair Oaks, Levesque, Parkin, Jeanette. I mean, I'm back and forth in Memphis 5-6 days a week. But I'm going to tell you something. You cross that bridge, as all my friends say, one state, one team. Now, and a lot of Arkansas State folks over here, but I'm going to tell you what. Secretly, they pull for the Razorbacks. When you were here for those 10 years, man, you got people fired up. And Tim Horton, I got to know him about 8 years ago. He's a great friend, just first class, loves you. I talked about recruiting with him. He said, when you can dominate in the state of Arkansas, you are going to be a contender for your conference and nationally. Talk about the growth of football in the state of Arkansas and what's going on up in the northwest corner of the state.
Yeah. Well, to go back, Arkansas, of course, I was born and raised in Little Rock, Arkansas. And so we don't have an NFL team. So my father took 4 boys. I was the oldest of 4. And Arkansas back in those days, they played 3 or 4 games in Little Rock. We didn't go to Fayetteville, but went to Little Rock. And so my heroes, Harry Jones and John Britton and Freddie Marshall, Kenny Hatfield. These guys were just, I knew their heights, weights, I knew all about them. But you're right. From corner to corner, it was a happening. It was Woo Pig Suey hates the Razorbacks are playing.
Yeah.
And so when I got to Arkansas in 98, I noticed the last film I watched at Little Rock, there's like 30,000 people. In 1997, I said, look at this. We could never let that happen again. We got to have our fans there because it's such an ultimate advantage. And we went out into every Razorback club and did more and really united them, got them fired up. And that group that Danny Ford recruited was a good group. That 98, 99 group, the Burlsworth, Clint Sterner, Anthony Lucas, Ryan Hale, Zach Painter, I can name them all, Kanoy Kennedy. These were good players. They just didn't know how to win. And they had 4-7 back to back. But once they started believing, boy, that's when they started achieving. And we were one heartbeat. And the fans got behind us. And boy, going to Little Rock always gave me chills because they were on the golf course. They were on Markham Street banging on a bus. And they were 10 deep when we got off the bus. And it excited you, man. And so you wanted to play for your home state. You wanted to please, and that's what these guys did. So it was awesome. We had some good years. We had some good games, good years. Won 3 Western titles. But going back to your question, it's so important. And this is what people, if you don't know Arkansas, you're not going to have a lot of 5 stars. But here's what you don't realize: Bo Lacey from Newport, the town you just mentioned. Bo Lacey might not have been a 5-star, but guess what? Had the heart big as Arkansas, and he wanted to compete, fight, and scratch, and do everything he could for that emblem, that Razorback.
Yeah.
And so don't let a 3-star like that escape, because that 3-star will motivate a 4 and 5-star from Texas on campus. I promise you, because they'll see the love he has for Arkansas and how you play each play. And so I can give you a lot of examples, but it's evaluation. And you can't go by those stars. There's always 3 or 4 each year. You got to keep the Darren McFadden's, Matt Jones, Sean Andrews. You got to keep those guys in state. But what you got to do a great job of is going to get that next guy. Those next guys that aren't quite as bright yet. Dan Doty, Jerry Wright, all these guys. All of a sudden, Jamal Anderson wasn't highly recruited, but he's 6'7", 205 coming out of Parkview, not highly recruited. Guess what? He gets drafted pretty high, but with development and the love for the game. And so Dan Hampton was a teammate of mine, and that was one of the first lessons I learned as a teammate. Well, he came out of Jacksonville, Arkansas, and he was 6'5", 212 pounds. But guess what? We all know what he ended up. An all-pro Hall of Famer, 6'5", 275, 280. That would create havoc on an offensive line.
Yeah. And I think about in the state of Arkansas, one of my favorite players, and Wes Moore from ESPN 103.7, The Buzz, is on with us a lot. Dudley Dawson, Hogville.net, was on in the first segment today. We cover the SEC and your favorite team. Weston Dacus, walk-on out of Searcy, Arkansas.
Yeah.
I think about that guy. I told him we need to have a Weston Dacus award. That kid, and Grant Morgan out of Greenwood. Think about that. They would crawl and give their last breath for the Razorbacks.
Rob, you hit it. Weston Dacus. This guy was so tough and so physical and would give you every ounce of energy for his teammates. And just a winner. And so it didn't take him long not to be on scholarship. I can promise you. And so that's just a great example of what you can't lose those players in Arkansas. The only thing bothers me a little bit now is when I'm from Little Rock Central. And I worry about our Little Rock area because we used to sign 5, 6, 7 guys in the Little Rock area. I'm not seeing that anymore. I see it more in Northwest Arkansas. You see different, the Bryants, the Cabots. But we remember Eastern Arkansas. I love, to me, I was always athletic guys, and Marcus Monk, David Barrett,
Freddie Joe Childress out of West Helena.
You can go all the way through. Thank you. You just keep going. So you can't lose those Eastern Arkansas and Little Rock. I just don't want Little Rock to lose. I'm worried about our Little Rock school systems as far as the producing athletes.
Yeah, and I remember my friend Scott Paulo was a high school quarterback at Little Rock Parkview, and his teammate was the tight end Keith Jackson. And he said the scariest game, I think it was a playoff game maybe, They were playing Pine Bluff Dollarway. And he said the locker room was underneath the stands and they were beating and just pounding on it. He said, we were scared, and we got out there and Keith Jackson said, just get the ball up to me. Just get the ball up to me. Scott Paulo, who runs a good double for Jerry Seinfeld, did just that. But I will say, Coach, I'm just Rusty Howard, one of the sales managers over here at Ready Ford Toyota, lives in Bologna, Arkansas. So you know all these towns. Yeah, and that, yeah, see, and that's the thing about it is that you absolutely love the state of Arkansas. And Coach Tuberville, you know, I know him from Auburn. He's from Camden. He said, I mean, you never gets out of your blood going to call the Hogs, does it?
It doesn't. It doesn't, especially, you know, when you're raised at 3, 4, 5 years of age, War Memorial, and you see it for the first time, all these people in unison calling the Hogs. I had to ask my dad, what are they doing? Calling them Hogs.
Yeah.
You know, and then to walk around that stadium and they're holding up 3 fingers and 2 fingers. I said, Dad, what are they doing? Holding up 2 fingers and 3. They need tickets. I said, well, do we have our tickets? Oh yeah, we got our ticket. We're right in the end zone. And so I tell you, it was a happening, and it just means so much. And like you said, you know, hey, when it's born and raised in you, it's there for life.
Yeah. And we're going to go to a break in a couple of minutes and come back. I know Jimmy Hodge has got questions. A lot of people have got questions coming in. Coach, the pride that the University of Arkansas has too. You got less than 3 million people in this state, but I look at football and basketball and baseball and the money. You think about benefactors like Warren Stevens and the Tyson family. But you know, you've got so many people over here in the Delta and Memphis. Now so many Memphis kids are going. We've got 3 members of the Cherry Farm Hunting Club in Parkin, Arkansas. The kids are at Arkansas. Of course, they're all Razorbacks too. The Cherry Farm, Jim Cherry got son up there at Arkansas now. It's a legacy program, isn't it?
Without question. And don't forget about Jim Lindsay. Jim Lindsay was on the chairman of the board when I was there, and he's from Forest City, Arkansas. Yep. What a winner. He's such a giver. He's done so much. Jerry Jones, Jim Lindsay, you can go on. There's so many people that you talk about legacy that give, and they give back. And that's what I love about Arkansas is when you look at Walmart, Tyson, you look at Warren Stevens, as you mentioned, all these guys, some of the most successful people in the world in Arkansas.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. It is. And it's a state. I tell people, you know, you look between Little Rock and Memphis. A couple of things about I-40. You get some of the roughest winter weather. Little Rock will get, 20 inches. You remember a couple of years ago, we had 20 inches of snow in February of 2021 in Parkin. Little Rock had like 21. But it is the people in this state. I have never, you look at the state of Alabama, you've got 2 schools. Here you've got the Razorbacks. But when we come back, I want to get your thoughts, more at your role with CBS as college football analyst. You're great on there. They have a great crew. I got to tell you, y'all talk about football. You don't talk about other things. That's what you're great at. And I love it because I can tune in. You, Rick Neuheisel, Brian Jones, the whole crew, you're myopically focused on football. And I bet you when you were a coach, if you had a staff meeting, you didn't want people on their cell phones texting and Instagram and stuff. They'd have been out the door. So we're going to get into more serious college football. If you ain't getting fired up listening to Houston Dale Nutt out of Little Rock talking right now, you don't have blood in your veins. So we're going to give you a minute to pause. We'll be right back with more on Sidelines.
Hey everyone, my name is David Wisdom.
And I'm Shelby McNeil, and we're attorneys with Haggard, Cleveland, Pierce, Thompson & Short, your local Auburn law firm. Established in 1959 right in the heart of Auburn, Haggard, Cleveland, Pierce, Thompson & Short has grown in response to our clients' legal needs. We're a full-service law firm focusing on the legal issues our clients face.
We take pride in providing our clients with exceptional legal services, ongoing communication, and skilled representation. If you have any questions about our services, please give us a call or visit our website today.
All right, Rob Browne back here on the Wednesday edition Sidelines College Football and Basketball Blitz. Jimmy Hodge up in Lake Zurich, Illinois, and Rob Browne broadcasting live. Red River Ford Toyota in Wynne, Arkansas. City with a smile, and we're getting some rain, and we've got Houston Dale Nutt, Coach Nutt on the line with us. And Coach, you mentioned Monday night you were there for the Broyles Award presentation in Little Rock, and I'm going to the Monday morning Birmingham Quarterback Club meeting, the dinner tonight down in Birmingham. And I think of in the South, that quarterback club and the Little Rock Touchdown Club is one of the most influential groups of men in America. Talk about the significance of the Broyles Award and the 5 finalists you had a breakfast with yesterday, and we'll go from there.
I got to give a lot of credit to David Basil. He's done such great work to have the vision of this award. Who'd ever believe it's going on 27 years? Coach Broyles would have been very proud of a finalist. What blew my mind is when you go in there and they're 33 years old, 36 years old, 39 years old. I think Coach Monken was the oldest at 61. I said, oh my goodness, it's a different world. I'm sitting here at 65 years of age saying, hey, life is fast. My mother always said, life is fast. I thought it was slow early on, but she was so right. It's very, very fast. But what David has done with the Touchdown Club, the Broyles Award, is phenomenal. It's nationwide. Everybody knows about it. The coaches can't say enough. When they come in with their wives, they can't believe the hospitality, the organization, and it's so well done. And Coach Broyles would have been very, very proud of this group with representatives from Georgia, TCU, Michigan. I mean, all these guys were just so good, and they did such good work. All 5 of them probably deserve the trophy, but you can only give it to one. But Pat Jones, Kenny Hatfield, myself, we were in there Sunday morning. We had a great dinner the night before, got to hear him speak. And then Monday morning, they have a deal where we go back and it's called the Frank Broyles breakfast. We kind of relive the history and kind of tell all the finalists what Coach Broyles, what he stood for, what he's about, told stories, and then they would ask questions. So it's really kind of a neat deal. So we had a great time. It's just a great banquet for those 48 hours.
Yeah, it is. And Coach Broyles, they called him Big Daddy. There ought to be a Heisman Trophy for what he did as an athletic director at Arkansas, getting all the families in Arkansas on the same page, all for the Razorbacks. And as a head coach, what a job that you had, and you are a Razorback for life. No matter where you go, you were at Boise, you were at Murray State, you were at Ole Miss, but this is the school, at least as I see it, that defines you. And I think you're proud of that, and you love those other schools, but that Little Rock Touchdown Club and David Bazel, he was a teammate. He was a freshman when my friend Tommy Christenberry was on the football team at Arkansas. I think David's from Fort Walton Beach, Florida, if I'm not mistaken.
I think that's right.
Yeah,
I know he's a Floridian, but he's locked into Arkansas for life.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. He definitely he ain't leaving the rock. All right, Jimmy Hodge, jump back in here with us. We got Coach Houston Nutt on the line with us on Sidelines on the College Football and Basketball Blitz. And Jimmy, let's go.
Houston, as we sit here in 2022 and we talk about the college football landscape, and you guys do every weekend on CBS, it's amazing that Boise State is a common subject of conversation, and people don't realize that you were the coach that brought Boise State into Division I football. You were their first coach, and their story to me is absolutely amazing. I think 50 years ago, they were playing junior college football, and what I wanted to know was how important were those first 5 years of your head coaching career, the 4 years at Murray State, and then the 1 year at Boise? I know you were expecting to be at Boise for a while for, that building aspect of what you have to do at a program that just has big dreams. But when Arkansas came up, you couldn't turn it down. But how important were those first 5 years of your head coaching career, and how did it prepare you for a job like Arkansas? Even though a Power 5 job, you can't be fully prepared, but it had to help tremendously.
That's such a great question. And you hit on something that I tell all the time to so many coaches. If it wasn't for those first 5 years, there's no way I could have taken over at Arkansas. No way. And let's go back. When I left University of Arkansas to go to Murray State, a lot of my peers, my coaching friends says, hey, congratulations. Why in the world would you go to Murray State? Where is it? Oh, it's a basketball state. What are you doing? I wanted to be a head coach at the time. That was a transition, if you recall, between Jack Crow, Joe Kynes, Danny Ford. Danny Ford had just taken over. And so I'd been there 3 years as an assistant. So I thought this would be a good time, and really scared to death. But here's what it allowed. It allowed me, without a lot of scrutiny, without a lot of reporters and media on top of me, to develop as a head coach, to make mistakes. And here's what's great, guys. We won 2 back-to-back Ohio Valley Conference championships. How? Arkansas. William Hampton, Mike Cherry, Rule Shepard, Tony Turner, Tim Scarborough, Ronnie Merritt, Reggie Swinton. Guys, these guys, Reggie Swinton, Mike Cherry, just got inducted to the Murray State Hall of Fame. They have records there that will never be broken. We won the only playoff game in the history. And remember, Frank Beamer, Mike Godfrey, Ron Zook. There's a lot of coaches that went through Murray State kind of quietly. And so it was such. So here comes Boise State calling after 4 years, after back-to-back champions. Boise State calls all the way from the West, says, look, we're making a transition from 1AA to Division I. Coach Nutt, we want you to come lead us. Well, when you go out there, it's beautiful. The mountains surround the stadium. And you hit on something. You did your homework. There used to be a junior college that won a lot of games. People love football out there. So I got excited. Now, it was a long move. And I had to recruit California. There wasn't that many Idaho, so you had to go recruit California. A little bit out of my element. But we got them excited. We turned it. I followed a sad situation because Pokey Allen had passed. It was really sad. Pokey Allen, their coach, passed away. So we're making that transition. The fans were excited. They'd won 1 game the previous year, so we got to 5, won the last game, our rival, Idaho, up there in Idaho in overtime. And that's when Coach Broyles called. But getting back, if you'll go back and if you look at these assistants, the Muschamps, and even Kirby Smart, it's hard to make the transition, Jim, from assistant seat to the head coach. And that's what those 5 years did for me. It gave me a great chance to make some mistakes, learn some lessons, and develop as a head coach. Where if you look at a lot of these coaches that just jump into the fire from assistant, the ending isn't always good because of what you just got through asking, that preparation. Because there's not a book of 101 how to be a head coach. You've been in a coordinator's room and you're in charge of this defense or offense, in charge of the quarterbacks or the linebackers, and all of a sudden you're in charge of 125 coaches, wives, and trainers and managers and administrators too. It can be overwhelming. And so that's where that was such a good experience.
Coach, looking at Jimmy, that was great question bringing up about how that prepared you. And I got to ask you this. You look at coaches today. Now, when I was in school, I grew up on Shug Jordan at Auburn. That was my guy. And I believe it or not, have a Pat Sullivan jersey from 1970 my parents brought home. By the way, LSU beat us in that game 17-9. Mike Anderson has a great restaurant in Baton Rouge. You've probably been there. Made the tackle down there. And Wallace Clark couldn't get into the end zone in the rain. I still have it, and he autographed it for me in 2008. And I grew up with Shug Jordan. I mean, he would invite people over to his house after the game. Come on by the house. Miss Evelyn and I will be there. And Ralph Jr. is a friend of mine. I just saw him at the Arkansas game, visited with him and his wife, Eve. And that was the day after Coach Dooley had passed away. And you know how close the Jordans and the Dooleys, they have houses together at Amelia Island. And we were talking about the struggles of Auburn. And he said, you know, his daddy used to say, this too shall soon pass, my son. And tough times don't last forever, but tough people do. And I think about Coach Dye when I was there, the lessons that we learned from these coaches about hard work. And, you know, Coach Dye growing up farming down there. They sharecropped about 3,000 acres in South Georgia, and growing up black, white, it didn't matter. They were just people. And he goes, come to think of it, I ain't never been segregated a day in my life. I just treat people like people. When you walk into somebody's house to recruit them, and we asked this question to Tim Horton and several other coaches, sometimes you get a meal that ain't so good. And one of them said, I go, what do you do? He goes, you ask for seconds. But talk about some of your funnest recruiting stories, because I'm going to tell you what, my phone's lighting up like a Christmas tree with people going, I love this guy. We got to get you back on again. I want to tell you how much we appreciate it. I know you got a busy schedule and a lot of people coming at you, but it means the world to us to have you on here. But talk about some of your funny recruiting stories and what you had to go through so people can understand. But I just want to get back to, I love the coaches that come out and want to be with the people versus go away. You always loved shaking hands and meeting with people, and that's why the love is back to you.
Let me give you two of the greatest examples ever that I learned as 18 years of age, coming out of Little Rock Central High School. Let's start with Paul Bear Bryant from Fordyce, Arkansas. That's where my dad's from.
Okay.
There's something in the water down there at Fordyce, Arkansas. Larry Lacewell, Jimmy Red Parker, Paul Bear Bryant. And so I was going to go visit Alabama, but Coach Bryant was going to come and make the home visit first. He'd called at 1 o'clock, so they run a little late. I'm in Fordyce visiting some friends. I'll be 2 hours late. See you about 4 o'clock instead of 2 o'clock, whatever. What do my brothers and I do? We go in the backyard. We're on an 8-foot goal. We've got our volleyball. We're working on Jerry West, Dr. J, jump dunk. We're Elgin Baylor. We're playing 2-on-2, best of 7. All of a sudden, this ball hits the back of the rim and goes over the 15-foot fence. And there he is, Bear Bryant with a houndstooth hat overlooking the fence. He's tall because our fence was 6 foot. And that fence was about 18 feet from that goal. And he's looking. There's no telling how long he's been there. I said, Coach Brown, I didn't know you was there. My mom's inside. She has the meal prepared. Come on in. We'll get ready for the visit. He looks at me and says, finish the game. I said, well, Coach, you really don't want to watch us play. We're just doing a little 2-on-2. My brother has the food ready. We're going in and see. Boy, I said, finish the game. And we finished the game. And he comes in and says in that deep voice, Imogene Houston, that's my mom and dad's name. I got 4 scholarships for these Nutt boys. Hey, I'm going to Alabama. It's done. I'm going to Alabama.
Wow.
And that very next week, here comes Frank Rolls. 6'2" Southern gentleman. My mother has roast beef, homemade rolls, mashed potatoes, gravy, green beans, apple pie. And he's eating 2 of everything like you mentioned, Rob. And my mother says, Coach Rolls, would you like another slice of apple pie? Immediately. Oh, yes, ma'am. And if you don't mind, write down the recipe. I want to take it back home to Barbara. And that taught me early on, Rob, just what you said. You never turn down food. And so when Coach Rolls walks out, what does my mom say? Coach Rolls really loved my food. You're going to have to go to Arkansas. Yeah. Mom, last week you wanted me to go to Alabama. And that's how good these coaches were. Great salesmen, but they're so good and genuine. But let me give you one quick story. A head coach gets 1 visit. So I'm at Arkansas. Chris Vaughn has about 5 visits set up for me. We're going Houston, Beaumont. We're just, boom, boom, boom. 2 o'clock. Get there. It's always a good sign when the mother or grandmother are cooking. Get there at 2 o'clock. It's fried chicken, collard greens. We're eating. Of course, we're asking for a second. 4 o'clock. Chris says, Coach, they're preparing a meal. I said, what? I'm stuffed, right? Go in there. Here's another meal. Roast beef. Ham. Broccoli casserole. Here we go. And it's 6 o'clock. 3 in a row now. Coach, hate to say it, they're cooking again. What? They got a pork brisket out there, Coach, and Coach, we got to eat. Uncle, they're up there, been barbecuing all day. This is my 3rd meal. And wow. And again, what do you do when they ask, Coach? I want some more. I'm big as a Frosty the Snowman, man. But I know this: when you have them cooking for you, you feel like you're in there because they're reaching out. And so I'm always appreciative of the mothers. And we did a study from 98 to 03. guys, if we signed 25 student athletes, on the average, 18 came from a one-parent home. So besides the high school coach, we're the father in their life.
Yeah.
And so when that mother prepares that meal, you want to say, yes, ma'am, and we're going to take your son with us. And not only are we going to get a degree, he's going to be the best football he can play. Best of all, when he comes back, he's going to be a man. To me, that's what it's about.
Yeah. I remember hearing Rodney Garner, played at Auburn, long time player when I was there, said when Coach Dye came to recruit him, he said, same thing. He said, my mother made the best meal she could. And we were in the den. And after we ate dinner, Coach Dye, instead of sitting there and watching her clean up, rolled his sleeves, went in the kitchen and washed dishes with her, and sat out on the back porch for about 3 hours talking about life. And then a damn thing about football, but it was about life. And you think about the connection that you have with your players. And I know some that played for you. We had Fred Talley on the show to recognize the 20th anniversary of that Arkansas-Auburn game. I said, my therapist, Bob Newhart, has done a lot of work with me over the years, but I think you just scored again. And somebody texted, Fred Talley just ran by my house. Man. Holy cow.
Pound for pound, maybe one of the toughest backs that Arkansas's ever had.
Yeah, and you had wasn't he from Atlanta, Texas?
Longview.
Longview, yeah. DeCorey Birmingham was from Atlanta, Texas.
There you go.
Boy, did you and Matt Jones, he just ran down Falls Boulevard here and win just now. I mean, I'll tell you that one was a tough one, Coach.
Yeah, it was.
Some of them. Man, but your teams, I remember, and I was watching, something was on Twitter I saw of after we were driving over on Black Friday 2007 to outside of Jonesboro to Cache, Arkansas, to where we were hunting at the time. Now we're hunting in Newport and all these areas around here. Hunter, these towns. See, that's why you're successful as a coach and what you do, because you know where these towns are. But we're got to take a quick break. But I want to tell you that what you just said, we got a few more minutes after this, about the relationship part of it. And that's what fans love to hear about, is how you got these players. And then once you get them to school, you are that father figure. You're the rock in their lives for 75, 80% of these kids. Right after this with Coach Houston Nutt, Rob Browne, Jimmy Hodge.
Hey y'all, it's Ainsley from Hewlett & Dunn, just coming to let you know about our new collection of boots. It's going to be our dress boots. They're the horsepower collection, and they're genuine exotic leathers and really comfortable. Comes in all different sizes and patterns, so come check them out.
Red River Ford and Toyota, located in Wynne, Arkansas. If you're in the market for a new or used car, truck, or SUV, call, go online, or drop by and see them. Located 45 minutes from Memphis, go off the 4-city exit on I-40 and go north about 15 minutes on Highway 1. Easy to work with and still believe in customer service. If you live out of town, they will deliver your vehicle to you. RedRiverFordToyota.com. Just see what they can do.
Strengthen your seed zone this spring with quality tillage equipment from HAWGS Industries. Located in Cherry Valley, Arkansas, HAWGS Industries specializes in manufacturing superior equipment that will minimize your downtime and keep you working in the field. To ensure the highest quality control, all design, fabrication, and testing takes place in a 99,000 square foot manufacturing facility located right here in the heart of the Delta. Locate your nearest HAWGS equipment dealer online at HAWGSIndustriesInc.com.
HAWGS Industries, breaking ground.
Sidelines with Rob Browne. Talk sporty to me.
All right, Rob Browne on the Wednesday College Football Basketball Blitz. Coach Houston Nutt joining Jimmy Hodge and me. Great stuff. My phone's blowing up. Dave Cody, good friend of mine, sports anchor in Austin, Texas for 36 years, texted this just now from Bellingham, Washington. He says, wow, love hearing Coach Nutt. I remember when Matt Jones wore number 9, I think, and beat Texas on a 50-yard QB run around the corner. Another one, Michael Jordan, MJ, over at the Cherry Farm in Parkin, Arkansas, friend of ours, love him to death, said, you tell Coach Houston Dale Nutt if he's going to be on 75 going north of I-40 in Parkin, he's got an open invitation to come to the Cherry Farm. This weekend, we'll be cooking 10 slabs of ribs, a couple of briskets, 6 whole chickens, 150 wings, and 100 pounds of boudin. Yeah! Anyway, you need to come on by there, and they got some cold road sodas, Gentleman Jack, and about 6 big flat screens to watch college football, the Army-Navy game. So come on by, Coach. You're welcome.
I wish. I'm going to the Army-Navy game. We leave for Philadelphia. That
Oh,
sounds
wow.
real good. I still have that. Man.
Hey, it's some serious food. But Coach, when you get these players in this last segment, I want to ask you, and I appreciate you taking time to be with us because this is incredible. Jimmy and I, everybody wants to know, what was it like developing Felix Jones out of Tulsa? Another one of my favorites, Peyton Hillis, because he's from where our man Tim Horton played, a proud alumnus of over there in Conway, the Wampus Cats. Let's talk about some. You got to love these names, but I want to just talk what it was like coaching those guys, because Tim's told me a lot of stories. And just golly, Darren McFadden from North Little Rock. Did you know kind of if a dog will bite, he'll do it when he's a pup? You know, guys that good.
We knew that he was going to be good. We had him in camp in the 9th grade. We knew that he was going to be good. He's out of Oak Grove in Little Rock there. And, but we had no idea that he would be at that level, you know, in the 9th, 10th grade. We knew that he was going to be good and talented, but this guy loved his teammates, unselfish. Felix Jones got hurt. He was at Tulsa, Washington, Booker T. Washington. He got hurt. And so we kind of got a head start on him because Oklahoma and Oklahoma State really kind of backed off. And so we jumped in there, and I knew his uncle went to school with me at Oklahoma State. So I had an in with the uncle. And I tell you, to this day, I talk to these guys a lot. You know, Jason Peters is still playing. You know, he's still playing for Dallas Cowboys, going his 18th year. And he played. We talked last week. So this is just an unbelievable group. That's what you miss the most. You miss that celebrated locker room with these guys. But the relationships, we always said, hey, when we sign you, we're not signing you for 4 years. We're signing you for life. And these guys were just, you just can't say nothing good about it. Tony Bua lives right down the road from me. And he's another one that was just has a heart. Maybe he wasn't 6'4", but this 5'11" frame would run all day and hit you in the mouth. Yeah. And there's so many stories, you know, and Peyton Hillis had phenomenal hands. He was tough. Kick returner, punt returner, fullback, tailback, slash. He could do it all. And there's just so many examples of so many good players, and you just love their attitudes and what they've become, more importantly, now after football is over.
Yeah, I agree. And it's fun to watch you because you are a father to these kids. They're always going to look up at you. We all loved the coaches who never let us quit, who said, son, I don't care what it takes. You're going to find excuses to win. And that's what you are. Getting a lot of texts from friends of mine. Some of them that played at Arkansas said to tell you hello and miss you. But Jimmy, jump back in here with Coach Houston Nutt on this Wednesday edition of Sidelines College Football Basketball Blitz.
Coach, what I wanted to ask you was just, and you talked about it some previously, but give us the ultimate example of the satisfaction you get from coaching, because to me, and I know when I mention this name, Brandon Burlsworth, I mean, that 1 year you were able to coach him, and he was so good. And you know this story, of course, but when he went to the Colts first, I guess, when they practice 3 or 4 days after the draft, they get together.
Right.
He was so good that Howard Mudd, one of the greatest offensive line coaches ever in the NFL, said to Brandon, you don't call me Coach Mudd, you call me Howard, because he was a starter from the first time he lined up for a practice rep. And then I think, and this story I read about after the bowl game, when you said to Brandon, really, Brandon, I'm sorry we couldn't end your career with the win. And he said to you, Coach, are you kidding me? That's the most fun I've ever had playing football. How satisfying was that year for you? Just not only was it a great season, you just put Arkansas immediately back into the national conversation. Had to be a tremendous thrill for you.
Tremendous thrill, and even a more of a thrill to have a relationship with these guys: the Grant Garrett's, Russ Browne, Abernathy, Joe Dean Davenport, Brandon Burlsworth, Bobby Williams. That offensive line was phenomenal. Jimmy Howard also gave the rookie Brandon Burlsworth a playbook. He's never given an offensive lineman before a playbook. Gave Brandon Burlsworth a playbook because he knew that he would be so loyal and he'd be a 12 to 15-year veteran. He had that much confidence in him. I don't know if you know this, guys. We're going to hand out our our SEC Championship Western Division rings. And it was a Wednesday in the spring. And he comes to me the day before and says, Coach, if you don't mind, in the spring, I always take my mom to church on Wednesday. Can I just come by and get my ring later? I said, sure. But there you go. That's what this is what kind of guy he is, right? And he's going to take his mother, going to drive to Harrison. And that tragic day, I never will forget that phone call. But his legacy lives on. And getting back to your question, Jimmy, the most satisfying thing is when you're sitting in a studio at CBS in New York, miles and miles away, and you get that text from a coach. Hey, Coach, best days of your life. Well, every 2 days when the heat index was 115, August the 5th, I'd come in the stretch lines and yell out, best days of your life. And they'd look at me like I'm crazy. 4:30 a.m. when we do the winter workouts in January, and they're barely getting their sleepies out, and oh God, here we go. And they got to sacrifice to make that investment. We got to pay a price. And I'd say before we start those stress, best days of your life. And they look at me like I'm crazy. But here we go, 15, 20 years from now, they text me, Coach, it was truly the best days of our life. And it's that kind of bond that we're talking about. Never let go of the rope. There's little sayings, we'd always have, and they end those letters, text, or emails with those. That's what's gratifying. And what's even more gratifying when a Tony Bua or Darren McFadden say, hey, Coach, I'm the father that I am today because of my 4 years at the University of Arkansas. I'm the father and the husband and the dad that I am today to my boys because of what I experienced with my teammates and what my coaches gave me at the University of Arkansas or Murray State. Oh, that's the reward. That's it. That's why you got into coaching. My dad was a coach for 30 years, never made over $30,000 at Arkansas School for the Deaf. And he was my first hero and the coach. And as you said, Rob, coaches are special people. And especially, they don't care how much you know until they know how much you care.
Absolutely. And I think about, a friend of mine who's very close to Coach Bryant's family, and Larry Lacewell was his godfather. And when I remarried, and my wife's ex-husband, Ray Osment, lives over in Jonesboro. And Ray said a few years ago, he said, I kept noticing this big black SUV kept coming over to the house on our little cul-de-sac just across the street. And all these guys would get out in suits. And one day I looked, I'm like, God, that's Jerry Jones coming to see Larry Lacewell up there. And, Larry passed away about 6 or 7 months ago. And I just remember, I used to hear you on there with George Lapidus and the guys on Sports 56, man. And I, when I was talking to Rusty Howard and the guys over here at Red River Ford Toyota and Wynn, I think you have been one of the most requested guests. I didn't think we could get you on. And so I asked him and he said, absolutely. So again, thank you so much for being on, because you can't get any more real than what you're talking about. I mean, you can go to Duval's Bluff and go to Craig's Barbecue. You know what I'm talking about over there, or Dondi's over there around Des Arc. These, that's what I'm saying. You know where the Czech cemetery is in Slovak, Arkansas. And we go over there to Max Prairie Wings on Saturdays after duck hunting. And it's just a giant Arkansas pep rally and fans from all over the country. But I got to ask you this. On the college football side, you made a move from Arkansas to Oklahoma State, but it's just that Razorback pride is so strong. What about now the future of college football? Because people listen to what you say. Words are like bullets. You can't take them back. We watch you on CBS, and I love what y'all do in studio, because Coach Neuheisel's on the show with us, and Brian Jones was on a couple of months ago. You really love football. And Rick Neuheisel's story, like yours, it's the real deal. Hey, you don't think you're good enough to play at UCLA? You're going to go to Yale? Why don't you come here and show me you can compete? He goes, okay. That's what he told Terry Donahue. And your mentors that you've had, you talked about. The thing I remember, all those years of your interviews with George Lapidus and the guys in Memphis, how much you love your dad, how much your dad loved to give back. And he didn't do it for the money. He did it because he loved to help people. That's your greatest gift, Coach.
Right.
You there?
There's no doubt.
Yeah.
There's no doubt. I was in a circumstance to be around such great coaches, my mom and dad. And then I had Charles Ripley, junior high school. I had Bernie Cox at Little Rock Central, Joe Fred Young, Eddie Boone, Johnny Greenwood, and it just keeps going. Then Frank Broyles, Lou Holtz. And then, I've helped players transfer before, and I want them to try to we always want our guys to make it all the way through, but, I transferred. But the thing about it is I've helped young people transfer when things don't go right because you want them to play. But one thing about Arkansas going to Oklahoma State, I went from Arkansas to Jimmy Johnson, so there was a tie. Wow. He was an assistant when I was there as a freshman, and Pat Jones was there. So there's an Arkansas tie there. And my dad played for two of the greatest basketball coaches in the world, Adolph Rupp of Kentucky and then Henry Iba. And my dad's roommate was Eddie Sutton. So I got to play for Eddie Sutton. And Eddie Sutton's assistant was Pat Foster and Gene Cady, But Rob, getting back to your question, what I'm worried about now, what I'm worried about now with the transfer portal, everything is too quick. It's microwave oven. If a coach gets on me, if I have a bad scrimmage, my name's going in the portal. I don't like that. I don't like where people can just go so quick. There's no loyalty. I spoke at SMU. Rhett Lashley, former player of mine. I spoke at his football team in August, Rob. Jimmy, I couldn't believe it. There was 56 new players in June. Wait a minute. You didn't have them in spring practice? Nope. June. And when I did some research, a lot of schools have more than 20, 25 players of new players from different players. We had to do most of our research this year on which quarterback went where. When you look across the landscape, Caleb Williams, Oklahoma to USC. You just keep going. Everybody, this tackle went here, this linebacker went here. And so, boy, I worry about that along with NIL. I want players to get paid. I want them to have money to go to a movie. I want them to get a hamburger. I want all that. But when you start saying, go get your own deal and you can have an agent, well, guess what? Darren McFadden's going to have a real nice deal with Stevens, Tyson, Walmart, but your left guard probably won't have that same thing. And I know you can say it's life. Well, that's what I thought cost of attendance was for. In the big Power Fives, you got cost of attendance. That's $5,000 a year. Some of the kids could get Pell Grant. That's another $5,000. My goodness. My laundry check in 1976 was $6.25. I was fired up. I asked Ken Turner, what's this laundry check? What's this for? You spend it. $2 worth of gas. I got $2 hamburger and a movie. I was fired up. So how much is, I mean, where are we going? I mean, it's free agency. There's no loyalty. I just don't see how you're going to manage this locker room consistently and keep everybody on one heartbeat. I'm concerned a little bit, guys.
Yeah, well, and we've about run out of time. I just want to say I totally agree with you, and I think it's going to correct itself. It's going to be interesting to see what happens with Tommy Tuberville and Joe Manchin, what they're proposing. But it is. I think the fans are seeing how do you keep up with the teams with all the changes and all. And I want to say, go out, people. After listening to Coach Nutt, he's living proof of it. Go out and help people with the expectation to get nothing in return. Don't give to get, give to give. Most often we see the face of Christ in the least among us, and see what you can do though to help people. And Coach, let people know how they can follow you and keep up with you. And if you do camps or speaking or whatever, because cost is only an issue in the absence of any added value. You're worth whatever it takes, but we really, really, really appreciate you being on with us today.
Well, I appreciate you allowing me to come on with you and Jimmy. I enjoyed it. I'm at Twitter. I'm at CBS Coach Nutt. I don't do much there, but I'm there. I work for CBS Got the privilege of working. This is my 11th year, and get to watch a lot of ball, so that's fun. Hey, y'all keep it going. I like what y'all are doing, guys.
Well, we appreciate it. And the greatest thing that I think the takeaway from today is what you just said about, your connection to Brandon Burlsworth that Jimmy brought up, and just the what you did with Arkansas and Clint Sterner immediately when you came back. And that was a great 10-year run, and you competed in the toughest league in America. You were successful. And again, we're going to make our own Heisman at the Cherry Farm if you come over to eat with us, and we're going to present it to you to give to Darren McFadden from the Cherry Farm. How about that?
I love it. I love it. I love it.
It's going to be made out of brisket. MJ's going to make a special out of brisket. But real quick, what's your favorite barbecue restaurant in the state of Arkansas? Craig's Barbecue, that's my favorite, but what is it?
I love Craig's. I tell you, I don't know if y'all remember this, guys. Back in the day in Little Rock, it was called Shaq's Barbecue. And then there was Tom's on 12th Street. And I have so many, Desert. I've been to Desert. I've been to so many. I love food. Some people smoke and drink. I eat. I love to eat.
Well, you come to look. We run out of time, but Coach, you come to the Cherry Farm in Parkin, Arkansas. You got an open invite. You got my number now, and I've got your. And we appreciate it, and we want to get you there to eat and enjoy and just listen to you, because we're never too old to learn from a winner like Houston Dale Nutt, Little Rock, Arkansas. If you can't get fired up after this, folks, you need to go to the doctor. Have a great day, everybody. We're out of here. We'll see you tomorrow. Thanks, Coach.
Thank y'all.
You bet.